vibrant city of Lagos. We'll be right here with you. Diving into discussions that matter. We'll tackle the headlines, explore stories that shape our lives, and dissect the issues that keep us awake at night. But that's not all. The Morning Crossfire is your platform too. Your thoughts, your opinions, they all have a place right here. From politics to business and the economy, from the social issues to the heart of the city. I'll be your companion, your source of information, and your partner in exploration. And it's just not about the headlines. It's about the conversations we have, the connections we make, and the impact we create. Your insights matter, your questions matter, and your energy matters. So whether you're in traffic, having breakfast, or starting your workday, I'll be right here, keeping you informed and engaged. So Lagos, stay tuned, set your alarms, and mark your calendars, and let's kickstart our mornings together, right here on the Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info and Kofi Bartels. Let's talk.
Live from the heart of Victoria Island, you're listening to your number one station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Okay, welcome. Let's talk about that New York Times article. I have it in front of me. Looked at it yesterday. Looked at the presidency's reply and all that. What is the New York Times saying? They are basically talking about the Nigerian economy and where Nigeria is right now and why Nigeria is where it is today. All right, why Nigeria is where it is today. Numbers to call 0201 277 0993, 0201 277 1993. 0201 277 2993 or 0201 277 3993. You know, for this world, when New York Times writes on your matter, it means that matter don't become global. We have the studio guest. He's an involvement economist, Gbolahan Olojede, looking ever so immaculate. Oga, you like saying you get this is going to affect you.
For where? The same country we do.
No. You don't look it at all.
Town hard.
Welcome, sir. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Fantastic. I want to describe Nigeria's economy as we speak. You looked at the MBS, I'm sure, figures and all that for me. Inflation now at 33.95%. It's been rising like a gari that has been soaked in water. How do you describe the Nigerian economy today? In a word or two.
It's pretty bad, but there is hope.
All right. It's pretty bad, but there is hope.
Yes.
Some people don't believe there's hope. This morning I had to struggle to convince some of my listeners that things can get better.
Yes, things can indeed get better. It depends on the actions we take. It's based on what we do.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility.
Yes, there is a possibility. We do the right thing, or we do more of the right thing, less of the wrong stuff, and we can bring things on track.
Okay. All right. Let's look at that New York Times article now. And of course, it's a big one. Do you agree that when the New York Times writes on you, on a country, a person, let's just about a country's economy, that means that it's really a big deal?
Well, it means it is attracting international attention. So Nigeria is a big deal. Mm-hmm. So whatever is going on in Nigeria will normally attract international attention. This is the biggest country in Africa in terms of population. Even in terms of GDP, you cannot relegate us, even to the middle. Of course, we have lost a bit of our GDP size in recent years. Mm-hmm. But what is clear is that when you talk Africa, that story cannot be complete without talking Nigeria. So everybody is interested in what is going on there. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, don't forget that one of the authors of that article was also a Nigerian.
And that was probably a brilliant move by New York Times, knowing that it could be rejected by the government and all that. But does that really count? Does that matter? Does that count if a Nigerian wrote or co-authored the article?
I think the most important part will be the content of the article. Yeah. But you see, there's also in the season that we are, where you also have situations in which some Nigerians are also writing in very harsh tones about Nigeria. That means we should also pay attention to all of that. A very good example is a recent Guinness left Nigeria kind of story. That's presenting that story in that manner does not show a full picture, and there's a mischief behind that kind of a presentation. And most of the media that presented it are Nigerian media. So we have to also be able to dissect those matters, ensure that things are balanced. We have enough troubles on our hand. We don't need to complicate it with bad presentation of news materials.
Interesting. Okay, let's look at what New York Times is saying. Olojede. The print PDF copy I saw says a resourceful nation buckles. A resourceful nation buckles. What do you make of that headline? A resourceful nation buckles.
I think it speaks to what is going on in the economy. We've seen even corporate behemoths run into trouble, issues around profitability of businesses in the last year, and even in the Q1 that we have seen. So a lot of things have happened. While I mentioned Guinness, while Guinness might not have left Nigeria as had been reported, there were businesses that actually left Nigeria. That is a fact. There are businesses that have paid dividend consistently for so many years but could not pay in the last half of the last year because of the circumstances in the country. So there is no doubt that the things are pretty bad. So what we should be talking about more maybe will be, so what do we do when things are bad, as bad as they are?
All right. Okay. Let's look at some of the details of that article. It says worst economic crisis in a generation torments Nigeria as prices soar. Ruth McLean, Ismail Awal, authors of that. It says Nigeria is facing its worst economic crisis in decades, with skyrocketing inflation, national currency in free fall, and millions of people struggling to buy food.
Correct.
Only 2 years ago, Africa's biggest economy, Nigeria, is projected to drop to 4th place this year. The plane, and this is GDP, right? So the paper starts by looking at people struggling to buy food.
Yeah.
How bad is it?
Let's even step a bit, before that.
Yeah.
He spoke about when last we've been here. You talk about decades ago. And that is a reality. When you take just the inflation figure, our inflation figure currently is about 28-year all-time high. So which means we've not had inflation this bad for 28 years. So if you take the inflation curve over the last 3 decades, you will see what I'm talking about. So obviously, it's an economic situation that we've not had for a very long time. And even people are not used to. So which means if you were not old enough to have witnessed the period that was being referred to, then you've never seen anything like this before.
All right. This should be in the 90s.
Correct.
All right. So we're looking at 1996.
Thereabout.
And that was when Abacha was in. That was when Nigeria was a pariah nation.
Exactly.
With all sorts of sanctions placed on it.
All sort of issues. So if you were not old enough to have witnessed that, you've never seen anything this bad as far as prices are concerned in this country.
That puts it in some extra context. the last time we had it this bad was when Abacha was in power.
Oh well, the military was in power.
Military,
Things were very bad then. We're back to that position. It happens also in several other nations. For example, inflation in America, I think is starting to get better, was 30-year all-time high. The same in Germany. As a matter of fact, both Germany and the UK went into a technical recession.
When was this?
This was recently.
Okay.
Last year.
Okay.
Last year, thereabout, yeah. In Japan, it was 40-year all-time high inflation. So it is pretty bad. But you see, when you compare what we are talking about with those nations with what we have, you begin to see the differences. So what they are talking about 40-year all-time inflation might be a 30-year might be a 2% increase
in compared to the years?
Yes. So, year on year, it might just be,
okay.
last year it was this much. This year it is 2% higher. That could be their own.
Okay.
Oh, we've never had it this bad. In our own case, it's a bit fatter.
Sir, that 30-year / 28 to 30 year must have been one of the darkest periods in Nigeria. Can I remember in 1996, the sanctions placed on Nigeria following the killing of Kensarowa in 1995 meant Nigeria could not even go to South Africa 96, you remember, to defend the Nations Cup.
Correct.
And Nigeria became pariah not just to the West, but to in Africa. And Nigeria had sanctions over sanctions over sanctions placed on the country.
Correct.
And that's where we are right now in terms of inflation.
In terms of inflation, you see, you talk about being a pariah nation. What has brought this about is a totally different kettle of fish. Now, I think it's also good to make a comparison, though our case is much worse.
Okay.
The comparison is with the developed market. And say, post-2000 and 2020, after COVID, there were a lot of surplus, a lot of stimulus that was pumped into the economies of the developed market. And what that caused was inflation. After that season was over, prices of items started to go up. This got further complicated by the Russian-Ukraine war. And if you look at inflation curve in all those countries, all of them, literally all of them, you will see that it was pretty bad. And there were similar complaints. The so-called cost of living crisis was not invented in Nigeria. It wasn't the Nigerian clause. We borrowed it because of how it was being described in all those other places.
Especially UK.
Especially UK, Germany, all those places felt it.
And how has it been since then?
Now, it's getting better. You see, the same...
Over there.
The same... some of the measures we are applying now, for example, the monetary policies, we also applied in all those places. Yeah, they started to raise rates and all that stuff. You see inflation going up. But now inflation has plateaued. They are already in a position to start cutting back on those, what you call monetary tightening policies. But we are not quite there. Inflation is still high. But we must say that while it is still very high, it is slowing down. But
the World Bank last week told the federal government that interest rate tightening is not the way to go.
It's not, which is why things have been very slow. Of course, like I said, inflation rate is slowing down. It's going up, but the rate of going up is slowing down.
All right.
Exactly.
Some people don't want to hear all those technicalities. So inflation is increasing, but it's increasing
at a decreasing rate. Now, we're not going to get to where we need to get to by just firing monetary policy. There is need for fiscal intervention. The key driver of inflation number we have today is food. And food is not in the hand of monetary policy.
We hear that year on year, food inflation has gone up 61%. That's MBS saying that.
Yes, if we revise the pot, there's a way these numbers are arrived at. If we actually revise that bucket of product that we use to calculate it, we might be surprised that it is higher.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. So
okay.
That's
So let's look at some of the things. We'll talk solutions because I want us to spend a lot of time talking solutions as much as we can. But before that, let's just understand what the article is saying, what the government is saying, and all that, how we got here.
Okay.
So talking about food is a big issue, and the paper says Nigerians are struggling to buy food. GDP. Now, sir, let's look at this issue of GDP and inflation. Economists will tell you, the economists will say that having the sub 10% inflation is a thing. If your inflation is 10% or below 10% is a thing. Nigeria had consistent years of sub 10% inflation under Jonathan. Under Jonathan, Nigeria's economy, and that's what I'm saying is, was the biggest, had the largest GDP when they did the revising and all that. And at what point, where did this decline start?
Okay. Interestingly, the decline starts way back in our little way of ignoring things. We ignored what we should have done. In 2014, the Minister of Finance, because you had a situation in which the president then will say, "Oh, Nigeria is doing well. Can't you see the number of aircraft that came to a particular conference?" But the Minister of Finance knew better. Yes, okay. There was growth, but that growth was not all involving. Some people were growing. A large proportion of people were not growing with those numbers. So even when we had those numbers, the volume of poor people was still high. Now, that administration started to do certain things. One of it, which got buckled, was they tried to remove fuel subsidy. Of course, it didn't work. We shouldn't go into the details of.
Are you sure we shouldn't go? I can play it here. So we do the roll call.
Yeah, because the subsidy had become so much of a problem that the finance. She was also coordinating minister for the economy, and what they saw then was very horrible. And he said, "Look, we need to put a stop to this." And there was a plan to remove that subsidy then, but of course. There was a sabotage at some point, because that plan, subsidy was meant to be removed in April of 2013, but a couple of governors were able to persuade the president to remove it in December 2012. It exploded, it boomeranged, and we were not able to get it through. And from that point in time, it was postponed. The next attempt will have been what Buhari tried to do towards the last years after the act. The PIA has been passed, and in the PIA there's no room for subsidy. So he tried to, can we look at this subsidy matter? But the kind of reaction he got, he just postponed the thing by 18 months. That 18 months, his own administration will have been over.
He didn't want to buy the bullet.
He didn't want to buy the bullet. Yeah. So many things we could have done. We've spoken about diversifying the economy base of Nigeria. Nobody did it. Once we talk about it when the oil price is low, as soon as the oil price picks up, we abandon it. So it's been several years of neglect, not doing what we're supposed to do, doing more of wrong things and less of the right things that got us where we are.
I remember then, there was talk of global economic meltdown, I think. And we're both seeing that, Nigeria's economy was immune to all of that. And it seemed the economy was immune somewhat. Because we didn't feel that shock, for global.
Because we were not exactly as integrated as those other economies. And the chunk of our GDP was still not in that sophisticated, in that formal sector. Most of our GDP, farming still constitute a huge, part of our GDP, for example. So we were not affected that much because our economic was a bit less sophisticated. We didn't catch the bug as much as we're supposed to have.
All right, fantastic. So this is where we were and how we started to lose it way before. Jonathan, oh my God. The pain is, the New York Times says the pain is widespread. Pain of Nigeria's economy is widespread. Unions strike to protest salaries of around $20 a month. People die in stampedes.
Yes, that was at Nasarawa.
Yes, even the one they were sharing here in Lagos State as well. This food, customs rice sharing. I don't know what happened to that rice. And then to people who may have been affected and all that. People die in stampedes, desperate for free sacks of rice. Okay. Hospitals are overrun with women racked by spasms from calcium deficiencies. In fact, the e-copy, there's a picture of a lady who has some calcium deficiency sickness, and they snapped her. That means that you can't eat the right food to be able to get calcium.
Which would have been obtained maybe from milk. If milk is not available, then a lot of people will run into that trouble.
So we don't have milk. Can't even buy milk.
And I think Awal is, that's one of the authors, lived in Kano.
I see.
And you might have a situation in which people in the metropolis who used to buy milk and the price of milk has gone up are not able to. It may not really affect the people in the bush who are probably close to the cattle themselves and could even get some fresh milk, But for people in city and you have to pay for it, don't forget, when disposable income crashes and people cannot buy, that is what happens.
All right, calcium deficiency. It's an issue. We'll pay our bills. We'll be right back.
No matter waiting, I show you. You show me love.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You show me. You show me. You show me love.
Show some
more love today with 4 more packs of your favorite Indomie noodles in Indomitable and Super Pack cartons. Also, each Indomitable pack is now 200 naira, while Super Pack is now 350 naira. So hurry now. Offer valid till stock lasts.
What takes a plate of jollof rice to the next level of goodness? Is it when it is cooked with no seasoning cubes for that sumptuous taste? Or when you serve it with correct Nigerian salad, cabbage, carrot, lettuce, and a bit of kidney beans?
It's both. Season your jollof with the rich taste of Knorr cubes and serve with plenty of vegetables. So go ahead and elevate your meals. Today, eat for good.
You won't get drink to boost your health. Oh, yes. Now, Wellman drink. Wellman drink.
Are you ready to feel alive and strong? Look no further, because Wellman Drink from Vitabiotics UK has got you covered. Packed with vitamins and minerals, it is a healthy choice you won't regret. Make a healthy choice today with a very low-calorie drink that is free from caffeine, preservatives, and artificial color. Wellman Drink, the ultimate choice for men. Available in leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
New Lafarge Water Shield Cement now confirm.
Oh, welcome, sir. Sir, we are set to begin the foundation.
Everything set?
Everything, sir. We have the estimates for the granite, the sand, the iron rods, the concrete blocks, the cement, the...
Wait, engineer. What cement are you planning to use?
Oh, the normal cement, sir.
The normal cement?
Yes, sir.
You know the area is waterlogged and you say normal cement? Have you not heard of Water Shield? The new waterproof cement by Lafarge, designed to protect buildings from water damage and water damage to your property. If you're building in a waterlogged area, then your best bet is the new Water Shield cement by Lafarge. Water Shield is the waterproof, high-strength cement expertly formulated for all interior and external use in waterlogged areas.
New Lafarge Water Shield Cement now confirm.
And water damage to your property.
No matter waiting, I show you, you show me love.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You show me, you show me, you show me love.
Show some more love today with 4 more packs of your favorite Indomie noodles in Indomitable and Super Pack cartons. Also, each Indomitable pack is now 200 naira, while Super Pack is now 350 naira. So hurry now. Offer valid till stock lasts.
If you wanna study abroad with Izzo, E-class day for you, no doubt. If you wanna study abroad with Izzo, E-class day for you, no doubt.
My brother, my sister, don't come with a better opportunity for you where won't go, but don't you go for education with shaking the money without wahala. A-Class Limited don't land the to carry you go UK, Ireland, Canada, and USA to bring down your dream compass. A-Class Limited go do all your paper and consumer you work permit after you don't finish your school. Carry body go meet A-Class Limited. The Lagos office day for 299. Akinlugba Street off Idomatis, Victoria Island, Lagos. Telewire them on 081-161-77789. Also for Suite 16, Ogba Shopping Arcade, Ogba Ikeja, Lagos. Telephone 081-161-77787. www.aclass.com for them website. A-Class Limited. Na dem be baba.
Meals have a way of taking us on a journey. And when you add plenty of vegetables like efo, ugu, and season with the rich taste of Knorr seasoning cubes, even better.
So go ahead and elevate your meals with more vegetables and the rich taste of Knorr cubes. Today, eat for good.
No matter waiting, I show you, you show me love.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You show me, you show me, you show me love.
Show some more love today with 4 more packs of your favorite Indomie noodles in Indomitable and Super Pack cartons. Also, each Indomitable pack is now 200 naira, while Super Pack is now 350 naira. So hurry now. Offer valid till stock lasts.
You
are listening to your number one station for talk.
Your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
This is Morning Crossfire on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back. It's still the Morning Crossfire right here on 99.3 Nigeria Info. My name is Kofi Bartels. See with me in the studio, Gbolahan Olojede. He is a development economist, amongst other things. And we're looking at the federal government's reaction to a New York Times article on the Nigerian economy. It's been all over the news, even in our news at 6 and 8. We covered it. And your thoughts are welcome on the numbers usually advertised 0201 277 0993, 0201 277 1993, 0201 277 2993, or 0201 277 3993. Do you think this article is sensational? I remember a documentary by the BBC titled Welcome to Lagos. You remember? Yeah, that one that Olojede lambasted, the one that had a musician who was doing scavenging, vocal slender, something. Later, went abroad and went to the BBC and all that. You know, and I remember then Olojede said, you know, this is in Lagos. They said this is Lagos, but this isn't Lagos. Lagos is just.
It's much more than what they depicted. Yeah.
Yes. So is this an attempt by, because you know, the foreign media to smear Nigeria, to pay Nigeria back? Because you're looking at, is there some sensationalism here when they say that unions protecting salaries about $20? The way you say $20, it sounds small, you know, in the ear, because it's an American who's reading New York Times. Somebody in Dubai is reading, but in Nigeria, $20 could be more. It's not 20. It's more than 20.
It's worth more than
that.
Huh?
You know. And then also you look at, just to add to this, it's people are dying in stampedes. Are people dying in stampedes everywhere? People are desperate for free sex. You know, is that a sensational aspect of this?
There are elements of sensationalism there, no doubt about that. But there are also major substances that we can hold on to and use it to find solution to those issues. For example, this article was talking about the two major policies that might have aggravated where we are. Of course, it did not present it as if there were prior issues. There were prior issues.
So subsidy removal.
So subsidy removal. They aggravated the issue. They may not be the sole problem we have. In fact, before we got there, things were pretty bad from the previous administration. So element of sensationalism, but rather than don't forget that Mr. Ononuga has a duty, has work to do, and it's work to speak for the government, and he must speak hope, he must speak in positive terms about the government. So he has done his job. It is left for us to look into the actual content, and we could see that there are substances, and what do we need to do to put things back on the right track.
But you said that the current predicament of Nigeria's economy is not. It could be traced even way back before Jonathan's time.
Oh yes.
So are you therefore saying that the New York Times is not being is missing it?
It's not talking about those at all.
Is missing it when they point to removal of petrol subsidy and floating of the naira as the two major factors for the price rises today. That is not true. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that the foundation has been set. Now these policies came, and by virtue of the way they came, they aggravated things dramatically. For example, look at what happened to the currency, and we also saw what happened to the prices by virtue of the fuel subsidy removal. While for a long time I have been convinced that we need to do something about subsidy. I was in oil and gas. I know what that fuel subsidy represented. Yes.
What did it represent? You can't leave us hanging now.
It's a dark hole of unaccountability. And a lot of things are buried in there. But you see, the question will be, if we are going to remove it, I expected that we will know that there will be serious issues. And then there will have been plan A, plan B, plan C. If the response, if the reaction we get is this is what we're going to do, the response. If this is it, this is what we're going to do. So all those responses should have been there. But it didn't appear as if we saw a lot of that. It was as if there was no preparedness for the consequences of such a major policy. So when the policy was unleashed, everybody started struggling to find out, what do we do? How can we do this? It shouldn't be that way. major policy, we need to think through it, have a robust plan as to when this is done, this is what we will do. When this is done, this is what the same thing with even with the currency issue. No country should have 6-7 exchange rate, for crying out loud. It didn't make sense. But then if we're going to unify it, what will be the implications? So when those reactions start to come, how are we going to respond?
But the naira kept falling against dollar and major international currencies. It kept falling and falling and falling.
It went all the way to 1,900.
No, I'm talking about
before then.
The value kept reducing, depreciating.
Yeah.
So wasn't the naira floating policy a way of arresting that depreciation and stabilizing it?
No.
Because they're changing every day.
The floating is said to be, look, we've been spending so much money defending the naira, and that this is unrealistic. As a matter of fact, sorry, we were actually borrowing to defend what we had. So we go out there, we borrow, so that the rates could remain at a certain level. That was not sustainable, no doubt about that. So the question we should have asked is, if we now remove it, do we have, because if we float it, the market forces will, hit it left and right. What are we going to do when those reactions start to come? What do we have? How do we react? So I do not think that we were ready with our responses before we proceeded with it. And the implication was that we had a currency that depreciated so fast. If you just take a look at a plot of the Nigerian exchange rate against the dollar, take a 10-year plot.
Yeah.
You will see clearly what we're talking about the rate of depreciation. It was unbelievable.
Even a 1-year plot.
Even a 1-year plot
from last year.
In December, it was 90 naira and something. By February, it was like 1,900.
But the naira became the world's best for performing currency some months ago.
Best and worst. It became because of that. There was a time it was 1,009, then it started to go down all the way to 1,070. Then it started to come up again. As a matter of fact, the day it started to come up was the day the FAQ was released, and I was like, it was a coincidence.
Money don't enter town. So you're saying that the policies didn't have a backup plan. They were not well thought out.
I don't think the backup plan was robust enough.
Okay.
And I think there will have been certain lessons from that when we do a rollout of major policies. We should be ready for the reactions. We should be ready with our own responses. Even do scenario planning.
Okay.
Because the reaction could come in various ways. If it come this way, this is what we're going to do. And be prepared.
But is that not what government is about? With all the aids, I know that the policy's gone statement was made when the president had not even constituted his cabinet. He had not considered his cabinet, and he made that statement and it wasn't in his written speech. Is that not what government is meant to be? That you do scenario planning, you paint, you have strategies, you think things through, so you don't have this fire brigade approach to government.
It's also possible
policy.
Maybe the people who were with the president, maybe that is what they were thinking, which was why they said, don't put that inside the speech, because if you do that kind of a thing, there will be reaction. The market will react. What is your preparedness for that market reaction? Maybe that was why they didn't want him to announce it as at that time. Maybe. Those are all maybes. But he went ahead and he has announced it. And that unleashed certain things, and there was no commensurate response to those reactions.
Do you have a sense of feeling, Gbolahan, that this president came to into office with a strategy and a plan, an action plan to implement?
The manifesto was beautiful. I still saw a copy of it on my laptop recently. Beautiful. But you see, we campaign in prose and govern in poetry. That is how it has been for ages and in many places. All those robust things, all those beautiful things we say, beautiful speech, manifesto and all the rest, when it comes to governance, it doesn't roll as beautifully as what has been written before you come into governance.
Because we have these sudden policies that, after 1 year, you now think, okay, shouldn't this have been done, when you came in? Why wait for 1 year? And then they just, okay, let's do this. It's almost like, okay, let's do this. Oh, guys, we can do this. For instance, a listener asked this morning, where is the economic management team of the president? What have they been doing? And then the emergency economic management team, what has been the input? I mean, do we have, are they still there?
Are they still there?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
They might be there. They might be there, maybe at the background, advising the government.
Anyway, New York Times continues. This is a nation of entrepreneurs. Nigeria has more than 200 million citizens who are skilled at managing in tough circumstances without the services states usually provide. That's countries, governments. Yeah. They generate their own electricity and source their own water. They take up arms and defend their communities when armed forces cannot. They negotiate with kidnappers when family members are abducted. But right now, their resourcefulness is being stretched to the limit.
It is stretched. It is stretched. Food alone, as a percentage of the total disposable income, has become something else.
All right. This is what the article says, talking about that lack of calcium, hypocalcemia, caused by malnutrition. And it seems to be an issue in the Murtala Mohammed Specialist Hospital in Kano at the emergency room. They normally receive 1 or 2 cases of hypocalcemia a year. But what we're hearing is that with many unable to afford food, the hospital is seeing multiple cases of this hypocalcemia in a year. Like you said, it's because a lot of people cannot afford milk. Let's quickly look at what Bayo Onanuga has been saying. This is a special advisor to the president, Nigeria's president, on information and strategy. This is what he said. He says Ruth McLean and Ismail Awal's feature story with the title "Nigeria Confronts Its Worst Economic Crisis in a Generation," published on June, reflected the typical predetermined, reductionist, derogatory, and denigrating way foreign media establishments reported African countries several decades ago. Bayo Onanuga says, because of the misleading slant of the report, we need to clear up some misconceptions conveyed by the reporters about the economic policies of the Tinubu administration. We'll go over quickly. It says most significant about the report was that it painted a dire experiences of some Nigerians, amid the inflationary spiral. It says the report, based on several interviews, is at best jaundiced or gloom and doom, as it never mentioned the positive aspects in the same economy, as well as the ameliorative policies being implemented by the central and state government. When it says Nigerians have been left on their own, what Bayo Onanuga is saying is probably they should have said, okay, this is what government has been doing.
Well, that report wasn't intended to do that, which is, when I say Bayo is right, it was actually gloom and doom. It didn't have anything positive to say at all. So Bayo is right on that. But it's now left for the government to, number one, communicate, but more than communicate what it is doing, it is that the people must feel it. So I'm doing this. Is the man on the street feeling it? Let me give you an example of some of the things government has done. There has been a bit of sanitization going on at the CBN level. A bit of clearing of outstanding obligations that were there. Cleared. It is good for the system. We even have a situation in which people like Emirates who have said, I'm not able to get my money, I'm out of here. We won't come to Nigeria again. I've come back to Nigeria. So some things are happening in the monetary space that are positive. But you see, the man on the street is unable to feel that. Sanitization of CBN. What is that all about? You're paying some obligations on the CBN window that have been there for a while. So what? What he feels is, when I go to the market, what do I get? In terms of food, when I have to enter transport, what do I get? That is, until those measures begin to get to those levels, the ordinary man cannot see most of these other things that we're talking about. The governors also have not helped that much, in my opinion. For example, they got much more money than they used to get. How have they made the additional money they got to count for the people in their states? Awal is from Kano, talking about milk, hypocalcemia in Kano. What is Kano State government also looking into that? Having received maybe 40% more money What is it doing about that?
Bayo says the president here did not create the economic problems Nigeria faces today. As a matter of fact, he referred to one economist, your colleague, who said it, put it in a way, he said Nigeria's economy until we inherited a dead economy.
Yeah, that he probably was referring to Mr. Soludo.
Yeah.
There is no doubt that he inherited a dead horse. But you inherit the asset and liabilities. You knew what you were coming into. So you take the full responsibility for whatever you have inherited and you move it forward from there. That is the expectations of the people. Maybe in passing, you can sometimes, it was bad. Yes, it was bad. We knew it was bad. We thought you were coming, that you were the Messiah that will make it better for us. So although it was bad when you came in, what can you do to make it better for us?
By removing petrol subsidy, which you did.
Yeah, like I said,
which Bio reminded us was gulping $84.3 billion between 2005 and 2022.
It was part of what created the dead horse. Even the way we were defending the Naira, it was unsustainable. It was horrendous. What I'm saying is that the government should have known, ought to have known. So Ashwaji became president in February. He was sworn in May. There was a 3-month period. There was some sort of handover. There were teams on both sides that were, doing things. Mm-hmm. So all these problems, you should have known quite a bunch of them. And the beauty of knowing is to begin to work out what the solutions will be.
In a country of more than 200 million people, as we are told, is it possible that any government can do anything after removing fuel subsidy, whether it was the government of Peter Obi, government of Atiku Abubakar, government of Buhari, or government of Goodluck Jonathan, could have done anything to stop inflation getting to what it was getting to, or it has gotten to stop prices from going up and the Naira declining?
Prices will have gone up irrespective of
so it's going to be inevitable.
It's inevitable. It is how we manage that inflation that is the issue. Inflation will happen when you do that kind of a thing. And one of it is, let me remind you of a speech by the president, July. Fantastic speech about what we're going to do, especially in the food space. He spoke about 500,000 additional hectares of land. Maybe you have forgotten this particular speech. How we're going to move away from the cyclicality of our agriculture and be able to do. All those things were there. That was July. By next month, it will be a year. Some of the products that could make a difference in the food space, they matured in 3 months. What that means is that for those kind of products, you could have had 4 cycles already. And the impact should have been in the marketplace. But the impact is not being felt, which means we are still not doing enough in the space of doing. There is a lot of talk, but we need to begin to translate more of the talk into the doing. Where is the 500,000 hectares of land to be cultivated?
All right. All my friends will say, they forget something. Let's go straight to the phone lines. 02012770993, 02012771993, 2993, or 3993. The presidency has had a lot to say about this, some of which you've touched on through special advisor to the president on media and information and strategy, Bayo Nadiga. What are your thoughts? Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bartels.
Welcome. Your name and contribution, please, very quickly.
Good morning to your guest.
Good morning, madam.
This is Olojede calling from Orile.
Say he.
You see, I want to ask your guest this question. When Baba OBJ took over from the military, how was the economy doing? How was he able to navigate through all the things that happened during that period? How was he able to overcome Nigerian debt? Now, fast forward to the time of PMB and this present administration. Can you tell they actually have the best of the best hands who are the need to manage the economy before we get to this stage? Because we are talking about what the New York Times have written, and most of the things they have written are just the obvious. Mr. Bayo Onanuga is just doing his job.
All right.
to earn his living. That is just the truth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our economic management in the last, years have been very bad. A very good example in the immediate preceding government was the way we think that borrowing is the solution to our revenue gaps. So every time we have revenue issues, we just say, "Will they borrow me money?" Yes, they will borrow you. Okay, bring it.
At the point we're spending 97% of our income from oil to service debt.
And can we account for all those borrowings? Did they go into what they're supposed to go into? That would be a major challenge.
How do we account for that?
It's to take a look at all those borrowings, what they were applied to.
So federal government arrests, interrogates Buhari?
Interrogates the spending.
How? by interrogating the spender.
Money leaves a track. It leaves trace. You can trace it where it goes from, where it came from, where it went into.
Because for a country at a point, Nigeria's crude oil earnings were all going to service debt.
They were going into service debt. They were going into paying subsidy. They were going into defending the naira. They were going to all sort of things. We were actually borrowing
to run the country.
We were borrowing to pay subsidy. We were borrowing to defend naira. We were borrowing to literally anything.
To fund the budget.
Everything was borrowing.
So therefore, can one therefore give President Tinubu cut him some slack then? That's a very bad situation.
There is absolutely no doubt that I inherited a very bad situation. No doubt at all. But you see, like I said, and I'm saying again, the expectation is that, it is bad. Make it better for us.
All right. Food inflation is up 61% compared to June 2023 to May 2024. Inflation is up for May 2024, 33.95% is the latest. 3 decades high. In December we had 30 years high. What needs to be done very quickly to address this?
It is so beautiful that we can see where some of the problems are coming from. A key driver of inflation is food. Let us intervene in the food space. If we solve food problems, we will solve a whole lot of problems. So there was a recent something that was said to be a leaked memo that wasn't official. Some of the content in that memo are actually very, very, very nice thing if you can implement. So maybe they could, whatever they need to clean up about it, clean it up. And let it go beyond just being a paper policy. Let's be able to drive it, to make it work.
But they rejected
and then transform food.
They rejected it. Fake news.
We decided fake news. Okay. So let's if we change that food area, the monetary guy is doing his bit.
How can we address this food issue? When you say change the food area, sir, how do you mean?
A lot of things are affecting food. Insecurity is there.
Yeah.
The farming input is there. I do get involved in a bit of farming, and I was doing farming somewhere in Kogi. Last year we did rice, we did cowpea. Let me tell you what happened to my cowpea farm. The day of gubernatorial election in Kogi. It was last year, gubernatorial election. Herders marched cattle into that cowpea farm, and they destroyed the entire farm. Oh. So my partner who managed the farm has said, look, this year, I know they do.
That's your money gone?
It's gone. The money is gone. The people were arrested. Nothing came out of the arrest. As a matter of fact, at some point, he was reliably informed that forget about this police matter that you are dragging with these cattle guys.
Nothing will come.
Otherwise, they will come with some machete for you. You yourself, what will be the point if you die and you have a case in the police? Just walk away. So, meanwhile, that was also a basin that government has prepared. People don't even know that government has land that you can go and lease in very nice basins. That you can do agriculture.
Irrigation. So that's a government basin area.
Yes, it was government area. You just go there, you pay the lease, and they give you land, hectares of land you can farm with.
All right, we have to go. I want to thank you, Gbolahan Olojede, development economist, for your time this morning.
Thanks
Tackling
for having me.
insecurity and make food available, and inflation will go down significantly.
It will.
Thank you very much.
To cook correct food, they always give me joy. That's now why anytime when they cook like this, I they always season them with no cubes. Come add correct vegetables inside.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's